So maybe let's talk into this is the larger problem set, right? In order to solve this problem, we're going to need to kind of potentially need to move some of these coins or have people voluntarily move the coins. Can you talk a little bit about how this proposal like specifically attacks that problem? And let's say in the case of like Satoshi's Bitcoins, right? So, estimated 1.1 million Bitcoins sitting there. If no one was to move those coins, they would essentially be frozen, correct?
That's the idea. Of course, this is controversial, and I wrote a fairly lengthy essay back in March, several months ago, explaining what I thought all of the points of contention would be and kind of my counterpoints to those. If we're in the do nothing crowd of, even if we roll out the post quantum scheme, but we decide, well, this is only going to be opt-in voluntary only, and we're not going to incentivize people to move their funds and tell them that they're going to have problems if they don't, then we can expect likely millions of Bitcoin eventually to be scooped up by a quantum capable adversary and most likely dumped on the market. There's many variables at play here, and that's what a lot of the discussion we had at the summit was around. It was like all of these different potential scenarios. So especially, the worst scenario is a quantum computer comes online when there is no safety, there is no post-quantum cryptography available. In that type of scenario, if a quantum attacker starts scooping up coins, then they're most likely going to want to dump them as expediently as possible because they can't even protect their own coins, that they are saving, at least from short-range attacks when they're moving them. But to get back to my actual proposal, the idea is that first, if we've activated some sort of post-quantum scheme, then we let that sit for a few years. And then after 3 years, we actually start rejecting transactions if people are trying to send coins to vulnerable scripts. Now, the reason for that is there is no way to email every Bitcoin user. There's no way to reliably notify every Bitcoin user that they need to take action, that they need to upgrade their security of their wallet, of their coins, and so on and so forth. So I figure after 3 years, it's a somewhat liberal, aggressive timeline to get the entire ecosystem upgraded from a software standpoint. But after 3 years, if people are then trying to send money and their transactions are getting rejected, I figure that's going to cause them to look deeper into what is going on. And at that point in time, they will figure out, hey, there's this whole quantum migration that's happening. I need to change the software. I need to change the attributes of my wallet so that I will be safe. Then the next phase that I've proposed is essentially 2 years after that point. So 5 years after the initial activation of a post-quantum cryptographic scheme. That is when we start rejecting all transactions that are spending quantum vulnerable funds. So the idea there is to completely cut off the capability of a quantum adversary from being able to scoop up funds and create massive economic disruption across the network. Now, this, of course, is controversial because people who weren't paying attention could get locked out of their funds. Now, the final phase, and I'm hoping that with enough research and development, this can actually occur in conjunction with the rejection of spending quantum vulnerable funds, is that I think it's preferable for us to come up with a quantum safe recovery scheme that people who have funds in those quantum vulnerable scripts can then provide some additional proof that they are the true owner and not a quantum attacker. And there's a variety of ways that you could do this, but essentially, I think it's going to involve using some data from your seed phrase, essentially, your hierarchical deterministic wallet, there should be ways where we can implement a zero knowledge scheme that you essentially feed your seed phrase into and your derivation path into, and you prove that you have this additional data that a quantum attacker would not have about the root keys to your wallet that are then used to derive the other keys, because a quantum attacker would only be able to look at the blockchain and get the specific private key for your funds. They wouldn't be able to get all of the parent keys that you're using to derive that key from. So that needs some work, but it should theoretically be possible.